Hello, my name is Evan Oliver. This is my presentation on Taiwanese food culture, specifically dealing with its influences that come from Chinese and Japanese cuisine. I'd like to begin by offering some historical background on Taiwan. Taiwan is an island nation located off the southeast coast of mainland China. Taiwan has its own indigenous population. However, today the demographics of Taiwan are such that the majority group is Han Chinese, which is the dominant ethnic group in mainland China. This is a result of heavy immigration after World War II and the Chinese Civil War. Historically, Taiwan has had periods where it was controlled by China and periods of time where it was controlled by Japan. For Japan, the notable period here is the 50 years leading up to the end of World War II, so that's 1895 to 1945. Following World War II, the Chinese Civil War came to an end in 1949 with the communists being victorious, and the Kuomintang, or the nationalists, fled to the island of Taiwan, which sets us up for today's present situation where Taiwan is a democratic Chinese state. The periods of occupation for both China and Japan in Taiwan help to inform the influences on Taiwanese culture and especially food culture that I'm going to be discussing in the rest of this presentation. Prior to 1895, beef was not a part of the Taiwanese diet. The reason for this is because cattle were viewed as work animals rather than food animals, so there was quite a taboo about eating something that was essentially a farm asset. Of course, everything changed in 1895 when Japan took over Taiwan. Japan had a similar food taboo about beef until around that time when a reformist emperor decided that beef was okay for consumption. Japan used its colonial influence over Taiwan to forcibly introduce beef into Taiwan. Taiwan slowly adopted beef consumption as it did with many other Japanese food customs. By the 1930s, Taiwan had a significant beef industry, enough so that it canned and exported beef to other countries in the surrounding area. I've included on this slide a picture of the southern yellow, which is a local variety of cow in Taiwan. Following the events of World War II and the Chinese Civil War, as I discussed in the historical background section of this presentation, the Kuomintang, the nationalist Chinese, fled to Taiwan. The rapid and dramatic increase in population in Taiwan necessitated a new source of grain to sustain this population. That grain came in the form of wheat donated by the United States. However, the wheat was not used in the way that we might use it in the United States, which is perhaps to bake bread. The Taiwanese, being heavily influenced by the Chinese, decided to turn that wheat into wheat noodles. And noodles became very important as a part of Taiwanese cuisine during this time period. The introduction of both beef and noodles eventually led to the creation of Taiwan's national dish, Taiwanese beef noodle soup. The dish was originally cooked by Kuomintang veterans from China who were trying to replicate tastes that they might have in their home in China. Various styles of Taiwanese beef noodle soup came to be in the years following its invention, some with a more clear broth, some with a thicker, cloudier broth. Each of these styles varied depending on the province in China from which the chef might have hailed from. A dish that came from Japanese influence is the biendang, which literally translates to convenient. Biendong are essentially the Taiwanese version of a bento box, as they're served inside of a cardboard or wooden box today. Typical inclusions in a biendong are some form of meat, whether that be chicken, fish, or beef, some kind of side, which might include tofu, egg, pickled vegetables, etc. And the whole thing is usually on top of rice. Biendong were introduced during the Japanese occupation and are still popular in Taiwan today. Many Chinese dishes were brought to Taiwan following World War II by the escaping Kuomintang. However, most of the officers led by Chiang Kai-shek came from the Zhejiang province in China, and so many of the dishes that are most prominent in Taiwan come from this region in China. Among the many dishes that come from Zhejiang are dongpo pork and longjing shrimp. Pictured on the right is a serving of dongpo pork belly. Left side of the slide, you'll see a bowl of olen, which is a Taiwanese variation on oden, which is a Japanese seafood dish. Olen may include similar elements to oden, including obviously the fish, but also egg and konjac, as well as some other vegetables. On the right side of the slide, you'll see two pictures of xiaolongbao, which are soup dumplings. So they have a broth inside the cover as well as a meat filling. Cantonese cuisine is quite popular in Taiwan and, of course, has influenced Taiwanese cuisine. So Taiwanese condiments and spices are also really quite popular. This includes some of the very basics like soy sauce, vinegar, and sesame oil. But this also includes more specific things like XO sauce, which is a spicy seafood-based sauce used as a topping. MSG, which is monosodium glutamate, a saltier salt used as a seasoning during cooking, and 5-spice powder, which is also used as a seasoning during cooking. I've included a picture in this slide of a jar of homemade XO sauce. These are the sources I used to gather the information for this presentation. I will leave them in the description of the video below so that you may read all about Taiwanese food if that's something you are interested in.